Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Sunshine Coast Regional District regular board meeting of Thursday, May 13th, 2021. We are calling to order at 2:01 p.m. on this day, and we'd like to acknowledge that the Sunshine Coast Regional District operates on the traditional territories of the Squamish and the Sechelt First Nations, and we're very grateful to be here. We have an amended agenda in front of us today. It is available on our website at scrd.ca on our agenda link. Before we move to adopt the agenda, I'm going to ask if there are any other items that need to be added or removed to this amended agenda today. See none, I'm going to ask for a motion to adopt this amended agenda. So moved, Director Toth, seconded Director McMahon. All those in favor? Thank you, motion carries. First up, I'm going to ask for a motion to receive all minutes and reports today, please. So moved and seconded. All those in favor? Thank you, motion carries. First up, Annex A, which is pages 1 through 8 of our package, is the regular board meeting minutes of April 22nd, 2021. Before we move to adopt these minutes, are there any errors, omissions, changes that need to be made to the minutes? Seeing none, I'm going to ask for a motion to adopt the regular board meeting minutes of April 22nd, 2021, please. So moved and seconded. All those in favor? Thank you, motion carries. Is there any business arising from the minutes or unfinished business? Okay, see none, we will move on. We have no presentations and delegations today. We do have some reports to go through. First up, Annex B of our package, which is pages 9 through 12. And this is the Corporate and Administrative Service Committee recommendations numbers 2 through 8 and 11 of April 22nd, 2021. Directors, before we adopt these recommendations as a block, would you like to poll any of the recommendations to further debate? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to ask for a motion to adopt this block of recommendations, please, from the Corporate Administrative Services Committee of April 22nd, 2021. So moved, Director Seegers, seconded Director Ties. All those in favor? Thank you, motion carries. Next up, Annex C, pages 13 to 14 of our package. And these are the special Corporate and Administrative Service Committee recommendations numbers 1 and 2 of May 6, 2021. Directors, would you like to debate either of these recommendations separately before we adopt them as a block? No? Okay. May I have a motion to adopt the recommendations of May 6, 2021? So moved and seconded. Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Next up is Annex D, pages 15 of our package, and this is on your amended agenda package. And this is the Infrastructure Service Committee recommendations numbers 7 and 8 from earlier today. Before we go to directors, I'll go to GM Rosenboom, please. I see your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I noted that I consulted with Recorder this morning. There was no vote made on the referral of one of the reports to PMAC, as discussed this morning.
Okay. There was, sorry, go ahead. Say that again, GM. Go ahead.
Talk about referring one of the reports to PMAC.
Mm-hmm.
And it was discussed but not voted on. So as a result, it's not included in the minutes. So the question is, do you want the report on the tipping fees still to be referred to PMAC in June? Otherwise, it will be PMAC in July.
Okay, I'm going to go to Director McMahon first as Chair of Infrastructure Services.
Great. That was my oops. So I would like to move an amendment to recommendation 7 that and add and further that the report be referred to PMAC.
That's not quite what, because it's a different motion. Because we were looking at specifically the tipping fees. Director Seegers, do you have some wording?
Yes, I believe it was the tipping fee updates at the SCRD solid waste facilities. So the recommendation that report, Annex C from the Infrastructure Services Committee meeting this morning, be referred to PMAC.
Okay, so I see that as a motion from Director Seegers, and I saw it seconded Director Toth and Director McMahon. Is there any further discussion on this item? See none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, we'll go back to recommendations number 7 and 8. I didn't see any further wish to debate those ones separately, so I'm going to ask for a motion to adopt recommendations number 7 and 8, please. So move Director McMahon, seconded Director Seegers. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Okay. Next up, we have number 6 on our agenda, which is Annex E, pages 17 to 22 of your package. And this is our Phase 3 water meter installations project alternative approval process. And I will go over to our corporate officer, Ms. Reed. All over to you, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon. The SCRD has received notice of our statutory approval from the province to proceed with an alternative approval process to seek elector approval for long-term borrowing to fund Phase 3 of the water meter installations project. As such, this report is coming forward to the board to initiate that process.
Okay. Thank you, Corporate Officer. Director Toth.
Thank you, Chair. Looking at the AAP elector response form, I note that the response form needs to be returned by mail or delivered in person. Does that deliver in person have to be, physically handed to an employee of the SCRD, or can it also be dropped in the mail slot on the east side of the building?
Corporate Officer, please.
Thank you for the question. Yes, it can be dropped off on the east side of the building in the mail slot. Further to that, I would add that we will be setting up an information table in the same location, and we will have printed copies of the elector response forms as well as the information packages. Legislative services staff are going to be on site at the Field Road office every day for the response period of the AAP. So from May 21st until July 7th, we will be there between the hours of 8:30 and 4:30 to meet with the public should they have any questions or require any further information.
Just a follow-up on that, Chair.
Yes, please go ahead.
I'm wondering if it's worth adding it to the AAP form specifically that there is a 24-hour drop-off located on the east side of the building. A lot of people work Monday to Friday, 8 to 5 or whatever it is. So it's great that we've got the staff outside of our normal, our current COVID hours of operation, but it might be worth pointing out that it is accessible 24 hours a day.
Corporate Officer, is it possible to put that on the form?
Yes, we could add that information to the form if the board passes a resolution to amend it as such.
Okay. So Director Toth, I see you've noted that, and we'll continue through the questions and then maybe come to that at the end. Director Seegers, please.
Thank you. I did send staff a few questions early this morning. I know our corporate office has already answered one that we did hear back from the minister with permission to hold the AAP. The next question I had was, what would the projected cost be to a homeowner in the service area if the AAP is approved and we borrow the full amount? And I'm wondering, further to that, is that information is going to be communicated as part of our reach to the public?
Okay. And who would like to take that as a question? CFO, our Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Perot, over to you.
Yeah, so that is included in the information package. There is a little standard box that we include in our AAP packages typically, and that includes the estimated cost of borrowing. So we estimate the net indicative rate of MFA at the time, and that is information that we also provided at the March 11th Infrastructure Services Committee. We provided 2 rates, but what's included in the information package is the upper limit of what the indicative rate of MFA is right now, which is 2.34, but we've estimated 2.5 in the information package. So the estimated rate for the homeowner is included in there, which is just under $54.
Thank you. Okay, I have another question, but we'll come back.
Okay, I will go to Director Lee and then go ahead, Director Lee.
Yes, there's a line I didn't quite understand. Let's see what pages it is on. It's early on in this thing, but I'll read it. It says, excluding those property owners who also reside within the service area 328. I don't really know what that means. That's page 18 at the top. It says, did everybody find it? It's
You said the top of page 18?
yes, it's page 2 of 3.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, 18 of the agenda package or 18 of the PDF?
18 of the agenda package. It's the 3rd paragraph down where it starts, staff have calculated the total number of electors. And the 3rd line or the 4th line starting from the bottom, it says properties within the service area, excluding those property owners who also reside within the service area 328.
So the number 328 refers to the number of non-resident property electors.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Corporate Officer. Okay, Director Lee, I'm assuming that's it for you. Over back to Director Seegers, please.
All right, so we are looking with this AAP to put water meters into the district of Sechelt. Have we had conversation with SIGD about water meters? The reason I'm bringing this up, I think that was a conversation that Chief Paul had said at some point. He said that's something they needed to look at. So I'm just wondering if we're in communication with them, because if we have a firm coming out to do this, it might be an opportunity for them to do theirs at the same time.
Okay, CAO McKinley, please.
Yeah, we've got some, I think there's been some preliminary outreach, and we have some staff-to-staff discussions upcoming, and GM Rosenboom may have a further update.
GM Rosenboom?
Thank you, CEO. Thank you, Chair. Nothing really to add at this point in time. We're in preliminary phase of having a conversation about how that can look like, and we hope to be able to provide some more clarity shortly on that.
Okay.
No, that's good. I mean, having the conversation, that's all. But community is going to look for us to ensure that we're in communication. I have one further question. With regards, sorry, one more. So we have the forms, right? So it's assuming that if somebody doesn't want to come to the regional district to get that, they can actually download it online, right?
Correct.
Could we request that the Sechelt Library and potentially Gibson's Library and Pender Harbor Reading Room have copies available? So because then they can print them for people who are coming in who may not have a printer. They may be able to see it online, but can't actually print it. I know we did that for our AAP, and there weren't that many, but there were a few people that just made it more accessible for them.
Corporate Officer?
Thank you for the question. The challenge with that, when we start distributing the forms throughout the regional district, and we did make them available at our rec centers in past processes, but there's an information package, fairly weighty information package that really must accompany the form. And so we made a conscious decision to not circulate and have forms available throughout the regional district, just because if people just pick up a form, they're not going to have the information they're going to need fully to make that decision. So it's possible we could have them there. I wouldn't recommend it as someone overseeing the process based on our experiences in the past.
Back to you, Director Seegers.
How many pages of information are we talking? Like 10?
10 to 20 pages.
Okay. Okay, so that would be a conversation with the, because I mean, the library will get people come in and say, you know, they'll request them to print it out. They will print it out and they will give it to them because that's a service they offer.
And that's fantastic. But the other issue becomes sometimes what we also encountered was people wanting to return their forms to the location where they picked them up, which is not possible. They have to be returned to the regional district, either in person or by mail. So that would just be the other thing that would have to be very clear.
They won't take your forms. They don't want them. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Director Seegers and Corporate Officer. Director Hiltz, over to you, please.
Thanks, Chair. Question is about the timing of the information packages and the website proposal site or the dedicated website. How this ties in with the notice, the first two notices. How do all those pieces come together in terms of a timeline?
Thank you for the question. The process will officially kick off on May 21st with the publication of the first statutory notice. So it will be available on the website and physically in person at the SCRD office on Friday, May 21st.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Are there any further questions for our corporate officer or for staff? Okay. Director Toth, did you want to propose a change to the elector response form? Do you want to propose that as we're doing this motion, or would you like to propose it separately and then we adopt it as a...
I am content to propose it separately since that's how I've drafted it.
Oh,
but I see
sorry.
the corporate officer.
The corporate officer raised her hand right away. So, so as part of the legislative process, I'm imagining we have to do it as an amendment to the motion after the motion is on the floor. Is that what I'm gathering?
So my suggestion would be number 3, that we actually propose an amendment to recommendation number 3 on the first page of that report.
Okay. Okay, so Director McMahon?
I would be happy to move the recommendations on page 17 and then somebody could move an amendment.
Okay. Okay, so why don't we do that? Let's move, Director McMahon will move the recommendations on page 17. And if I can have a seconder for that, please. Seconded by Director Ties. Director Toth, would you like to make an amendment to number 3?
I would like to propose an amendment to recommendation 3 that the elector response form be amended to include elector response forms may also be returned 24 hours a day at the drop slot located on the east side of the office. If that's sufficient for the corporate officer.
Corporate officer, does that go ahead?
I would request that we insert be amended in the form as established.
I think that's what I said. Thank you.
Yes, that's what Director Toth said. And if I could have a seconder for Director Toth's suggested motion as suggested by the corporate officer, I see that seconded. Is there any further discussion on that? See none, I will call the question. All those in favor of the amendment? Thank you. Okay, so we now have an amended motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion on this? Okay, before we call the vote, I'd just like to say thank you very much to the corporate officer and our infrastructure services team for the work on this and the continuing work that I know all of our teams will have going forward, especially communications. So with that, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That carries. Okay, as amended. So thank you. Okay. Terrific. So with that, next up on our agendas, we don't have any communications today. We don't have any motions, no bylaws. But we do have directors' reports. So for the benefit of our newest director, this is an opportunity for each director to give a report what's happening within their area, any activities that they've been doing either on behalf of the board or behalf of their council or board, and it just kind of a little bit of what's been going on with them and any meetings they may have attended that would be of interest to the other directors. So we're going to go for volunteers this time, and whoever either unmutes or puts their hand up. Director Toth, there you
Sure,
go.
let's get it over with so then I can hear what I missed when we get to director seekers. In the district of Sechelt, we passed our 5-year financial plan and our tax rate bylaw and our sewer user fee amendment bylaw yesterday. We did have a special council meeting in order to get that adopted before our deadline, which is May 15th. Our community forest presented their 5-year draft operating plan to us last night at Committee of the Whole, yesterday at Committee of the Whole. They're also hosting a public session today at 4 p.m., so just a couple hours from now. And finally, not too much other District of Sechelt stuff that you guys haven't also been at. So finally, I booked my time slot for my first shot this morning. Got the notification through my phone, booked it during ISC. So yeah, I honestly thought I was going to have to wait till 2034 to get my shots, but kudos to the province and the vaccine rollout teams, including one of our counselors who's heading up that effort here on the Sunshine Coast. So that's really all I have to report.
Terrific. Thank you, Director Toth, and good luck with your shot. Next up, I have Director McMahon, and then on deck, Director Ties. So, Director McMahon?
Yeah, the humorous bit was that I was trying to press a different button and I ended up putting up my hand.
Aww.
That really stinks. So it has been 3 weeks since my last confession, and it's been fairly busy. On April 22nd, I attended a presentation for the Marine Education Center in Gibsons from Chris Lewis of the Squamish Nation. That was a terrific introduction to the Squamish Nation history, everything that's going on there, and I highly recommend it, and we'll be sending out the link in my newsletter and to anyone who's interested. April 23rd was the House Sound Forum. I'll let Director Peltz report on that. April 26th, we participated in Let's Talk Water, which hopefully has received hundreds of views on YouTube. April 28th, I met with my APC and we had considerable discussion about, planning changes, and we passed some recommendations from Area E. April 29th was the Fire Commission meeting. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of complaints about beach fires, and we were trying to make some progress on that, but that's a tough one. So all we got out of it is a promised publicity campaign on responsible beach fires, hopefully in advance of the May long weekend. April 29th and 30th, I attended the Long Service Awards for staff. That was interesting. May 6th, we did grant and aid, but more important, I got vaccinated. May the 8th, Andreas and I attended a meeting of a newly formed climate action network on the Sunshine Coast. They are looking for opportunities to take climate action locally. May the 10th, I met with the Stream Keepers. Just a heads up that they will be coming to us. They are very concerned about development practices in riparian areas. There's a lot of development going on right now on the coast, as everybody knows, and streams and creeks are at risk. Fish-bearing streams and creeks, I might add. On May the 10th, I also attended the Scredo board meeting. there was a lot of material on that meeting. They have an economic snapshot of the Sunshine Coast that will be coming out soon. But unsurprisingly, we strayed into the realm of ferries. And I will say that one of the Scredo members made a really good point that I had never thought about. He said, look, we've got one ferry right now running at 60% capacity. He said, I used to run transportation systems. So if you get two ferries running at 30% capacity each, it sure changes your overhead picture. And so what you should expect if we get a second ferry is for fares to rise dramatically because the costs have gone up. And so, you know, that's the old be careful what you wish for thing. That discussion, we also had a discussion at the Elphinstone Community Association meeting last night, same topic. One of the members of the FAC is on my community association. And really, I think folks felt that the next step lies with our MLA, to be fairly blunt, because if there's going to be a community conversation about ferries has to come to the table, and the only person who can invite them with some force is our MLA. So that's it. We all saw each other at the intergovernmental meeting. Was it last night? Night before last. And a few other things. Sorry. Go by Bike Week is coming up. I hope you're all looking forward to it. May 31st to June 6th. I can bike all the way from my bedroom to my office. There are more food trucks coming in all the time to take care of those of us who are fed up to the teeth with cooking our own food. So if you're in Area E, I just want to tell you that the Shortcut food truck is at the corner of Henry and Russell from Thursday to Sunday every week. They have great food. Their menu's online. And Sunday Cider has opened their patio. And they also, I think their patio is open quite often, but they have Salt and Swine on Fridays and Bruno's Burgers on Saturdays and Sundays. And the Sunshine Coast Connector bus service between Powell River and Langdale is starting up again tomorrow. Just FYI for anybody who needs to know that. So that's it for me, and over to the next area.
Thank you, Director McMahon. Next up, I have Director Ties, and then on deck is Director Hiltz.
All right. Well, I was trying to beat Donna to it, but she got ahead of me, so she reported on most of the things I attended, which is, I guess, not a bad thing. But I am also getting my shot next Thursday after our planning meeting. And yeah, I'd like to thank my grant and aid committee for helping me through that process once again this year. And I really appreciate their input. And I also, thank you to the Coast Climate Action Committee for doing what they do and being engaged. And that's really all we need is an engaged public. And they're certainly doing their part. I also attended some of the Staff Long Services Awards, and congratulations to everyone that's been around for a while. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Thank you, Director Ties. Director Hiltz, and then Director Seegers.
Okay, thanks, Terry. I'll just keep adding to the list of stuff we've been up to. The Howe Sound Community Forum was on April 23rd via Zoom again, and a good turnout. And a couple documents were released. So this is one of the topics, I guess, in terms of our outside work, how documents go from the outside to the corporate record. So this is something I'm still kind of wondering about, documents that are received at the Howe Sound Community Forum, how they or should they enter into the Sunshine Coast Regional District records. I'm still not quite clear on that because in terms of the Howe Sound Community Forum, the reference guide, which is one of the major deliverables out of the Ocean Watch Task Force, which came out of the Howe Sound Community Forum, is will be launched on June the 7th. And part of this 3-year project is a renewed source of funding to fund these projects. And so this is the project has been developed. It's going to be released to the public. And then there's going to be a request from local governments to pitch in and to see how they can help. And this is where the differences of funding models between the regional districts and municipalities seems to come to an issue of how municipalities have the discretion to put money into certain places in regional districts. And if it's not in a service, it doesn't happen, right? So this is one of these advocacy liaison pieces that I am still working on figuring out. Other things, the Poverty Forum, which ties to the housing and affordability. I found it eye-opening and reminding of me of being a student and being on the poverty side of things, and how I was fortunate enough to have support to move forward, whereas many people don't have the family support and are oppressed by poverty, and it becomes systemic and they can't get out of it. So that's something that I'm still trying to figure out about and learning about. So that was a well worth forum attending. The Gibson District Public Library Board met on May 10th. They keep trudging forth, and they actually have quite a good process for reporting out on the strategic plan and the initiatives in the strategic plan and how they're keeping up with that. And a final note, which maybe Director McMahon might know about, it's about a potential joint meeting between community associations with Patrick Weiler. I don't know if, because East Elphinstone Community Association and West Howe Sound often meet on the same days. So now with Zoom and the ability to kind of have virtual spaces, they're, I believe, going to be having Patrick Weiler, which is really a nice thing to see community associations pooling their resources and bringing in people to speak to them. So I'm waiting to hear about that. This is in June, apparently. I haven't heard further details. And I'll stop there. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you, Director Hiltz. Okay, Director Seegers and then Lee, please.
Thank you. All right, a few things. Director Beamish, Director Pratt, and I are still doing weekly calls now again with Vancouver Coastal Health. It gives us updates on the vaccine rollout, what the issues, the concerns are, all of that. Up until probably about a week ago, one of the issues that we were dealing with was supply. And so clinics couldn't really be booked in advance much because they weren't certain of the supply of the vaccine itself. That's been mitigated now. They're getting lots of vaccine coming in, so there are lots of clinics set up. But what we're aiming towards at some point, and VCH is pushing, and other municipalities and health authorities are pushing, is a whole community rollout. So not age-based, let's just get everybody signed up and let them have their vaccine. 12 plus are now eligible for the Pfizer vaccine in Canada. Last I heard, at least last week when it was just announced, VCH indicated the province hadn't gotten on board with that yet. I haven't seen anything come through, but we'll get an update on that on this Friday. So the issue they're looking at is how do they actually roll it out to students who are 12 years and up? Some are in school, some aren't in school. How do they make sure that they're all covered off? So there's a few things to be sorted out about that. Always fascinating call. It's half hour and it's quick, but gets us up to speed on what's going on with that. I attended the SCRD Long Service Awards as well. Amazing, right? Amazing. I mean, we do see staff moving from municipality to municipality, taking different jobs, but it's really commendable to have some of the staff who've been with us for, I mean, one of them is 30 years, right? Number of them 25 years. So there's a lot of corporate history that's available to us through the staff that we have. And kudos for, those at the regional district who work with them to ensure that they stay here and, still find it a valuable place and a meaningful place to provide some of their time. I got my vaccination a couple weeks ago now. And I mean, the only reason I'm mentioning it is when I first got elected as mayor, I approached one of the high schools, the local high school, to say I'd be willing to come in and talk about local government to any of the classes. Didn't hear anything back. COVID hit. I happened to sit down beside a social studies teacher for grade 11 class at Chatteledge. So I mentioned it to him. I said, I'd like to come in. Well, he emailed me right away, and I actually went in last week, Friday. They had spent the day before putting together a list of questions. And so I came into the class and they handed me the list and we went through the questions. It was really good. It was a great opportunity, and I'm hoping they invite me back. If I didn't bore them too much, maybe they'll invite me back. Capilano University. Again, Director Beamish and Director Pratt and I sit on an advisory committee meeting with Capilano University. What it is an opportunity for us to give them information about things that have shown up in the community that they could then support with courses, training, etc. For example, that's how the early childhood education program was launched there. They've also right now have a program for healthcare workers, right, or healthcare aides, that they recognize that there are people on the Sunshine Coast who have some of the training, maybe not all of it, but they have housing here. So we don't have to worry about finding them housing. So if we can train them up as healthcare aides, they can actually fill some of those spaces. So those are the types of things they're reaching out to industry, reaching out to government to find out how they can support us here on the Sunshine Coast. And I think they're doing a pretty decent job. Couple of things in Sechelt yet. We were presented with the progress report with regards to the poverty reduction strategy project. If you look at our agenda for our committee of the whole meeting on Wednesday, that report is there. One of their recommendations, their number one recommendation, is that we establish a regional social planning table on the Sunshine Coast to address intersecting issues that contribute to poverty and hire a social planning coordinator. They said a lot of the information that they got in this report that they put together is information that's been available on the Sunshine Coast since 2011, 2012. The issue is it hasn't been moved forward because there's nothing coordinating it. They said the model that the seniors planning table uses and that the housing group is using right now is a model that they want to see with regards to social planning table to address poverty. They said all of these different organizations are working in silos and there's little cross communication. So in order to have that happen and to actually have meaningful change happen in this area, this is their number one request. Then another piece to address Director McMahon's comment about equity on the Sunshine Coast and equity at the regional district. One of the documents that they put together is called a poverty reduction lens, considering poverty reduction when developing policies and plans. So that is provided. It's got questions in there. It's got questions to ask ourselves, and we're looking at putting policy together. So I think that's something that we could bring forward and implement here at the regional district. COVID fund, Safe Restart Fund grant policy. We're following the lead of Gibson's. District of Sechelt is setting aside money, and we're working on the policy right now. It'll come back to our committee of the whole meeting, our next committee of the whole meeting in 2 weeks, and then on to council. We're looking at setting aside, or we requested $100,000 be set aside of the COVID restart funds, and then we're just staff came with the policy. We're looking at some revisions to that to meet some of the needs that we know are out in the community. So watch for that to come. Another thing that staff have come forward with is, I don't think this has been mentioned, but a Sani dump, location for a Sani dump in Sechelt, because we recognize that those with motorhomes, etc., don't have any place right now to, do what they need to do with their to deal with their sanitation services. So they proposed a number of locations. We've requested they look at a few more, and that'll be coming back to us very shortly for a location for the Sunshine Coast. Hackett Park is getting a lot of work done. We've gotten some grants for Hackett Park. There's going to be a permanent stage built in the bottom corner of the park closest, the kitty corner from the Arts Center. And there is also right now, staff are building a small kind of an amphitheater in there so that you'll be able to sit on the hill with seating, etc., and enjoy things in the park. The playground equipment is going to be upgraded as well. The tennis courts are going to be resurfaced. Then final item, movie in the park. Last year, Fortis sponsored a drive-in movie for families in Hackett Park. They've come forward this year and indicated that they would sponsor half the cost. And so we have actually approved that we will cover the other half of the cost. Arrowhead Foundation or Arrowhead Group is going to be the recipient of the funds raised for that because it's by donation. Any of the funds raised will be going to Arrowhead. That's who we've chosen. Once that's been accepted by Fortis, that's good to go. Dates aren't set, but it is in August. So watch for that. That's all I got. Thank you.
All you got. That's it? Really? You sure? You want like 10 more? No, just kidding. Next up, I have Director Lee and then Director Beamish.
Oh, that's a tough one to follow. I haven't been up to too much. There's been a few things, though. The Pender Harbor Living Heritage Society, quite some time ago, came to us for a proposal to build a small float on Hotel Lake. And we did give them approval subject to the GM of Planning final approval and him being satisfied that all the permits and all the authorities are in place. That hasn't been completed yet, but hopefully it'll be done soon. But it generated, and I'm not sure how come, a whole lot of questions from residents, and I was surprised. I guess that there was a picture that was showing a sand beach, and there was also talk about a picnic area. And I believe the residents assumed that that was on the lake side of the road. But in fact, it's actually on the other side of the road. The reason I'm mentioning this is that if you hear anything about it, the Living Heritage has now put a presentation up on their website that explains what actually the history and what's proposed and what's actually going to be put there. So hopefully I don't have to keep sending emails anymore. I can just refer them to that website, which would be great. It's a big thank you to Alton, Andreas, and Donna for all of the stuff they wrote on the ferry. And I was able to very successfully cut and paste and use various parts of it for replies to emails that I was getting from local residents. So it really made my life a lot easier. So thank you for that. The other thing I got to say is my grant and aid committee, they did a great job for me. It was, they were shockingly well prepared. They had read all of that documentation, a huge amount of it. They could talk to any of them. And they actually came with their, each of them came with their suggestions already. So it went very fast. We were less than an hour. They were really greatly prepared. That's Lynn, Linda, and Janet. Great team. Have to say thanks to them. Really made my job easy. I really enjoyed the opportunity to have lunch with Warren. Him and I met Saturday and we were up at food truck at Earl's Cove. And what a great place. There's the food truck that's up there and there's also the Cove restaurant. And the ferry guys provide us with picnic tables right on the waterfront. So if you go about 12:30 up there, all the rush is over and yet everything's ready to go. Recommend the mushroom burger. It was great. So we got caught up in a whole bunch of old guy stuff, which wouldn't interest you that much, but we got to feed some crows too. That was fun. And finally, I got to say I surprised myself, but I really enjoyed that intergovernmental meeting and the topic of the youth. And I was quite impressed with Patrick attending and sitting there very patiently. It was really nice of him. And what amazed me most was the breakout rooms. They really worked well. The one I was in was great. And with a smaller group, you got to say what you think, and you had a nice discussion, and it really worked well, the breakout rooms. So I think I'll be attending a few more of those now. It was a good experience. But anyways, that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lee. Up next, I have Director Beamish and then Director August.
Thank you very much. It's always good to follow Director Seegers because she covers most of the things that you and I have been doing, Director Pratt. One thing that I didn't hear, though, and that was the East Link on the coast. A very good session last week. Keith Vanderbrandt moderated. He sent out questions in advance, covered areas like COVID, how's the community doing, BC ferries, water, and housing issues. And it was really good. Chief Paul was also there. And it was just an excellent conversation among us. And I hope people are tuning into those and hearing some of the things we have to say. Last night, I had a meeting with our local public art committee. Again, another dedicated group. Appreciate the work that they're doing, the interest they have. One of the areas, two areas we're working on. One is to finally get the updated public art policy through council. It's going to be on the agenda this coming week. We suggested a couple of additional changes to it through the meeting last night. One thing we're trying to look is for a commitment of funds from council for public art in the community on an ongoing basis, so that we're not kind of doing it on a project by project basis. We actually have a budget to work with, and part of that would come from either development or building permits, also related to development, and just looking at a percentage of revenues attained from those sources. One area that's been suggested is we look at doing a art walk through the town, highlighting some of the art that currently exists, but also identifying locations for additional public art. The Gospel Rock project has already 5 different locations for public art identified on the Gospel Rock plan. And we want to look at working with the owners of that project. 4 of them will be on private lands within the development, and 1 of them will be within a public area, but hoping to encourage the owner to work with the committee to look at public art and how public art is chosen relative to its long-term maintainability. It's nice to have public art, but when it deteriorates and you can no longer repair it or fix it, it's something that becomes an embarrassment as well over time. So very good committee, very interested in sitting and work with them. CAPU meeting was also very interesting. The leader Zoom we had. The intergovernmental, I agree with Director Lee that the format was excellent, breaking it into breakout rooms. And I was really proud of the work that the students did in terms of the presentation and the thought that went into that. They have organized themselves to give advice and to give feedback back to ourselves as politicians. And I think we need to listen, because we've always said, where's the voice of the youth in our decision making? Well, this is one way we'll encourage them to come forward with that. So I've actually put that presentation on our agenda package for council for this coming week, and we talked about some of the recommendations that come forward from that. Looking forward just a little bit, I see we've got coming up Elphinstone graduation. There'll be, I guess, videotaping a speech for that next Friday. And so that'll be interesting. And some work with BC Housing coming up. I've got a luncheon meeting with BC Housing next week, which I'm also looking forward to. So, yeah, it's busy, but it's kind of a fun busy, except, my wife left this morning and I was sitting in front of this computer, and she's going to come home shortly, and I'm still in front of this computer. And we had our 20-minute lunch break, so that's great. But I share that with all of you, I'm sure. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Director Beamish. Up next, Director August, your inaugural director's report. Once again, just wanted to just welcome you and looking forward to having you at our table. So go ahead. Would like to hear what's been going on.
Chat. Good to see you guys. Thank you all. I just want to firstly take the time to thank Sherry, Donna, and Jennifer for helping me and getting me all sworn in and setting me up and taking care of me, welcoming me at the board when I came in today. So I appreciate your guys' assistance. I don't know what I'm allowed to report on. I didn't know that I had to do a report, but I'll tell you this. We've been extremely busy at the nation doing a lot of internal governance work and internal structural work, interviewing. We're on a third part of our interview phase third part of, retaining our CAO. So we just finished that third phase and hopefully we can nail it down to the individual soon. We need our CAO to keep us going. We've had Rochelle, our interim lead, taking care of us over the last few months. So we've also been really busy doing a lot of community engagement. Our community wants engagement, and so we've committed to going out to them for almost, everything that needs to be vetted through our community. Our more recent ones were, capital planning, capital projects and planning, the budgets. We're amending our SGA, the Self-Government Act. So we had to do some community engagement around that. We are looking at, from now and over the next 3-4 months, at least one, if not two, community engagements a week. So it's going to be really busy. If we look at going back to do the family meetings where I have my family meeting, we would be going to at least 3 to 4 meetings a week. So we found that we have way more success having more people come out when we have family meetings. So it works for us. We might have to go back to that. So a lot of internal work around governance and our structure. We just are in the middle of implementing 4 main committees, and we are basing those committees off of our fiduciary obligation as chief and council. We're responsible for the financial, for governance, for policy, and for planning. So those are going to be our 4 main committees, and we are working on terms of references, who's going to be a part of it. Are we going to have community representation at the table? We started scheduling those meetings to kind of rotate throughout the month, and policy is going to happen weekly and every week because it's so busy, and all of chief and council have to sit at these meetings and have to participate in the committee meetings. So we just added another 4 or 5 meetings to our schedule, but it's working. It's going to help us. We're creating the avenue for us to dialogue, because I feel like we talked about we're working in silos too much. We don't know what's happening over here, or all the linkages and how the departments cross over into each other's areas, that we need to just bring it all together. And we're taking the lead on making it happen. So with Barb Joe, she was our former CAO and has been our CAO for the longest time, but with her as a council member, she's been very instrumental on getting us organized. So it's been very beneficial having Barb on as one of our new council members. It's going really good. I like the structure, and it's been fun. I'm happy to be here and being a part of the SCRD. I was telling Warren when he asked me if I wanted to take this on, before I got on council, like literally maybe a week before I was elected on council, I was just taking I was in the business admin program going for my degree at CapU. And the very last course I took was Introduction to Municipal Government. And so it talked a bit about regional districts and everything that you guys do. And then how does CSHELT fit in with respect to our quasi-municipal government? They didn't have any answers on what CSHELT does and what's quasi-municipal government, but I told him, I said, I would love to be I would love to take the role on because I want to see how it works. And so I'm really grateful to be here and actually put some of that learning into like real life, like this is how it works. So I'm happy to be in this position and sit as a board member for the RD, representing the Seashell Nation and the government district. So I don't know what else to report on, and I'll have more for you next time, but I'll leave it at that for now. And thank you guys.
Well, thank you so much, Director August. And I personally, just because of our long history, I'm just thrilled to have you at this table. So it's fantastic.
Yes,
so,
thank you.
We'll finish up the director's reports. One of the great things about going last is everybody else, I think, has reported on almost everything that I've been to. So a couple of things that I haven't heard about yet. Seashell Library Board was on April 24th. They're continuing to do some fantastic things as they move forward. They had their AGM in March, and Pat Harvey is continuing on as chair. And I can't remember if we've actually reported on this or not, but we had an interim library director who has taken on the position full-time, Leanne Emery, and she is doing fantastic work there. I know we've all met her, or everyone here has met her through the budget process, but I just can't help but sing her praises enough. She's doing some pretty fantastic work there and moving a lot of projects forward at the Seashell Library. April 27th, we had mayors and chairs had a meeting with Minister Farnworth and Minister Osborne regarding the travel orders that were the travel orders and the travel restrictions that were put in place with the new public health orders a couple of weeks ago. And it was really interesting. We really came forward with a Team Sunshine Coast approach. Mayor Beamish was first out with saying, ferry traffic to the Sunshine Coast, we shouldn't be lumped in with the VCH and Fraser Health. Next up was Mayor Seegers with the same thing. There were a few more mayors, and then Mayor of Powell River, Dave Formosa, spoke about ferries as well. And I ended off the call speaking once again about ferries and people traveling to the Sunshine Coast when they did not need to be there. So we did a lot of advocacy that day for the travel, and I hope people are staying put while these travel orders are in place. It looks like our numbers are going down gradually, which is good. So fingers crossed. I get my vaccination on Saturday. My 25-year-old and her boyfriend got theirs yesterday in Alberta, and they haven't had any ill effects. So they're moving quite quickly now that the supply has reached Canada. It seems to be moving very, very quickly. So that's good. Hopefully we'll be able to see everyone in person sooner rather than later. On April 30th, we had the construction industry roundtable with staff and members of the construction industry, and it was just a continuation of rebuilding a relationship with the construction industry and speaking to them about continuing to look for process improvements and just building a strong foundation for a relationship, and really recognizing the importance that the construction does have on the Sunshine Coast and to our economy. And then I'd like to just end May 7th, the Sunshine Coast Leaders Zoom that we do with mayors, chair, chief, MP, MLA. That was all, that's always a very good meeting. And it's a really good chance for us to update each other on what's going on and hear about things that are coming down provincially and federally. And then with that, I think that's it for director's reports, unless anybody wants to shoehorn something in that they missed earlier. I see Director Hiltz, you've got your hand up.
It's a question actually for Director August. Thank you very much for the update. The family meetings, if you could tell, I'm not familiar with kind of the family meetings that you have. If you could say something about a little bit more about that. Yeah.
Sure. So we normally do the town hall style, like where we just put the call out for everybody to come to this one big kind of like general meeting style meeting where we just present the information. Here we're trying, because the chief and council all come from different families, like the Dixon, and I come from the Dixon family, which is a pretty large family within our community. We've got somebody that represents the Joe family, somebody that represents the Paul family, somebody that, and so on. So we take that approach, and then where I call my family together and just say, my mom, I'll use my family as an example. My mom doesn't go to any meetings. Like she just doesn't, she hasn't, and she doesn't, but because we're calling a family meeting, she comes, my aunts, my uncles. A lot of my family is very quiet. They're the quiet type that don't really bring, or I can't say they don't care. It's just that they're just, it is what it is. Like they'll take whatever they take, whatever happens kind of thing. And they just can't bother with the political forums, I guess. So, but with family meetings, they're more closer, you're more comfortable, you're not there, you're not listening to the screaming and yelling if that's happening, or it's a way to open up a space where, yeah, just where it's more comfortable. Some may be afraid to talk in front of other people. So, my mom, I was just shocked to hear her raising, oh, I have questions or I have some concerns, because she never used to attend. So it's just representation from each family that would come.
Thank you.
That make more sense?
Okay. Fantastic. And then I had also made a note, just based on some of the discussions and some of the directors' reports, that it, being as I heard from a number of directors about their appreciation for intergovernmental, I'm wondering if we should send a thank you to SD46 and also a thank you to the Sunshine Coast Youth Council, because I'm hearing that, I've heard that from a few directors, and also not just here, but previously. And so if we want to have an official letter from the board, would we like to put thank yous towards both of those organizations? I see Director McMahon moved that. Seconded by Director Lee. Any further discussion? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. I'm sorry, Jennifer, we kind of did that to you on the fly. I hope you got that.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And sorry to our corporate officer for always doing things on the fly. That's an easy one, though, to come to do. So that's great. Okay. So with that, the next thing we have on our agenda is we do have an in-camera session. So for anybody that is still in the audience, we will be, after we make our motion to go in camera, we will go to you for any questions. But first off, we're going to make the motion that we go in camera, and so that the public be excluded from attendance at the meeting in accordance with Section 90, 1J, K, and 2B of the Community Charter. So may I have that motion, please? So moved and seconded. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. And looking to, do we have any questions from the audience or any questions that came in? IT, did we have any questions? Nothing came in. Okay, I see that. Okay, so we are going to bring this attendee, CAO, I believe. And welcome back. You are back at the regular Sunshine Coast Regional District Board meeting of April 13th, 2021. And thank you for being with us. And with that, I'd like a motion to adjourn, please. So moved and seconded. And all those in favor, thank you and have a great day.
Thanks, Sierra.